Hey everybody, so I'm coming at you with another quick little lesson on how to use articulation sets. In this case, how to use them to control multiple parameters with only one key switch. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to show off two little examples. In this one, we're going to look with the sonokinetic ostinato strings, and in this case, we're going to look at how to use one key switch to control multiple key switches. So first off, let me just quickly talk about this instrument and why we might want to make a key switch for it. So it's a pretty cool instrument, but it can be considered pretty complex. So if we look at the contact keyboard here, the blue notes, if I play a chord, you can see it's recognizing that chord and it's playing one of these ostinato patterns. So now let's go over the key switches, so we know exactly what we're going to be controlling. So these ones down here at the bottom, these actually control the inversion. So if I play, say, this G major chord, if I go down to the bottom and change one of those, you can see that it's changing the inversion. So between root first, second, and if you're playing a seventh chord, you have your third inversion. Next up here we have these yellow ones. Now there's two sets of them because you can control the top and bottom here independently, but basically these are just changing the pattern. And then finally we have some red ones up here, and these control the voicing. So if you look over here at the left where they show off the notes, if I go ahead and now switch it to 2. So they're offering different voicings for the chord you're playing. And then just for those curious, the green one's up here. Once I play a chord, it's going to recognize that as me playing an F major. And it'll just match up the key. So if you wanted quick ostinato playing, but we're not really focused on that part right here. But what we're focused on is, say I'm playing that F major chord, and then I'm going to jump to a G major perhaps. But I want the G major to switch to maybe the quarter note staccato and voicing 3. But when I play that F, I want it to be eighth notes and position 1, and maybe I'm also going to want that G to be in first or second inversion. So in order to do that, I'd have to put in quite a few key switches. So I'd be playing this F chord right here, and if I want to go to G second inversion, I'd have to press a key switch down here, and I would also have to press the key switch to change this, and another key switch to change the voicing. But we can actually control all of that with one single articulation. So let's go ahead and set that up in the articulation sets. So let's just go ahead and make 3 of these, let's say. Let's call this maybe quarter notes, voicing 1, I'm just going to use some shorthand here, root inversion. We'll call the next one maybe eighths. Whoop. Voicing 3. Second inversion. Just sort of making these up as I go. And then finally let's do 16ths, voicing 5, and we'll do first inversion. So there's some shorthand there. So first step is we are going to go to switches. Now we put in these 3 articulations here. Let's go ahead and add 3 so they're auto-filled right there. And the way I want to trigger these is just by hitting a note. So I'll choose note on, note on, note on. And let's make our selector, or our selecting note, a C4. So go up here, choose C4, C sharp. We'll make this D4 and E4. Just keep it on the white keys for now. So now I'm telling Logic that, hey, I want C4 to equal this articulation, D4 to equal this one. So Now we just have to tell Logic what each one of those articulations means. Because right now it only knows that that's what we want. It just doesn't know what that articulation means. And to do that, we'll go to Output. Now, in order to control multiple things at once, we're actually going to hit Activate Multiple Outputs. So now you can see each articulation can actually do 3 things at once. So let's try this. So we want quarter notes here, which that would be equal to, if I play here, E3, as you can see there, and it changed right there in Contact. So I'll choose Note On. It's going to equal E3 to change it to those staccato quarter note pattern. Now I also wanted to make this voicing 1, which we can see here is C#4. So I'll choose Note On, C#4. And I also wanted this to be in root position, which is the key switch all the way down here, which is C0. Okay, so now we have one set up. The next one, we wanted 8th notes, so we'll go to Note On. 8th notes in this case was D, whoops, sorry. There we go, it was F3 to make these 8th notes. So once again, we'll just find F3 on here. In order to make it second voicing, that was D#4. And finally, we just need to make it second inversion. Second inversion was E0. And then finally, we wanted 16ths, which should be, let's see here, double check, is G3. Voicing 5 is equal to A#4. And finally, first inversion is equal to D0. So now what should happen here is when I hit C4, it will trigger that. Now here's the test. When I hit D4, what it should do is switch it to an 8th note pattern. It's switch it to the third voicing option here in Contact, and it should also switch it to second inversion. So let's go ahead and give that a try. Here's the first one, and now here we go. Awesome. And then if I hit E4, which was the key switch I set up before, it should switch to 16ths, voicing 5, first inversion. And so just like that, we have set up one key switch to basically control 3 key switches. So we don't have to do any complex key switching in the piano roll or anything. One simple note controlling all. And now these multiple outputs can also control other parameters, which I will actually show you in the next example. Okay, so in this next example, I have loaded up the trumpet ensemble articulation from Berlin Brass. And what I want to do here is I'm using the Staccatissimo patch and the repetitions triplets phrase patch. So here's the thing I want to do. I want to have these certain notes hit Staccatissimo. So actually, let me go ahead and just play this little phrase here. Okay, so I want these 2 notes right there to be the triplet repetitions, sort of as a little fanfare into the next note. So obviously we want to have the key switch set up, but the other thing with these triplet repetition phrases is you can control the tempo of them right here. So actually let me go ahead and select it. So if I go ahead and play it now, I can change it to another tempo. Now, of course, I'm playing at a slow tempo there, but it's locked to the host. And so I have it set up so controller 50, CC50, will control the speed here. So the way I could do it is just simply record in our key switches. I actually messed up there, but we want... Okay, and then if we wanted to control that speed for each one, we would have to go to MIDI control 50, and we'll set this one, say, here, so a little slower phrase, and this one we'll set up to a higher one. Maybe bump that up here. So you can see that's how we would originally control the speed. But we can do all of this using the articulation set, so I don't have to worry about any of this. So I'll go ahead and delete that. I'll go ahead and delete the key switches, and let's go ahead and make an articulation set. So we'll go ahead, we'll make 3 of them. We're just going to call one stocky for the staccatissimo, and let's make 2 for the repetition patch. We will call this, say, slower rep and faster rep. So the first step is to tell Logic what we want to use to represent these, or our choice of what we want to press to trigger that articulation. So we'll go ahead and make 3 here for the stocky, slower rep, faster rep. And in this case, I want to use just regular key switches. So note on, I will choose C0 for our staccatissimo. Note on, I'll choose D0 for this one. And then note on, and for faster rep, let's choose E0. So just like before, we now need to go to output and tell Logic what each one of these articulations mean. So we'll go to output. Once again, we're going to activate multiple outputs. So first off, let's start with staccatissimo. So in Berlin, that equals note on C0. Now, we don't have to worry about anything else with staccatissimo because I don't have to control anything else with it. It just needs to be that articulation. It's only the repetitions we have to worry about. So first off, in Berlin, that is currently set at D sharp 0. So let's, for both of them, set them to D sharp 0. And this is because I can't load another repetitions patch and control its speed individually. But here's how we're going to do that now. So now we have told Berlin, or we have told Logic, go to this articulation on Berlin. But now we also need to tell Logic, and when you get there, switch this controller to this value. So in my case, I set it to controller 50, and depending on the value, we'll change the speed. So I will set controller. I'm going to tell Logic that I am talking about CC50. And then I'm going to tell it what value it should be. So we'll set this one to 80. And then under the faster repetitions, we're going to do the same thing, controller 50, and we'll set it to 127. So what that should do is take it to the next speed up. So now let's go ahead and just put these in our phrase. These ones were all going to be the staccatissimo. This one is going to be the slower reps, and this one will be the faster repetitions. So now if this is set up right, when I hit play, it will switch in here. So let's go ahead and just double check that. Let me quickly go back. I messed up and said D sharp 0. It's actually C sharp 0. And now when I go ahead and hit play, let's first check that these repetitions switch to the repetitions patch. Awesome. And then we'll go here, and with that CC50 data that I put in, we should also see it change here. Awesome. So you can see just by setting that up, we have one key switch controlling multiple parameters. It can be multiple notes or multiple key switches. It can be a note and a MIDI CC or a program change, anything like that, pitch bend. And you have a choice of up to 3 things that each key switch can control. So you have a lot of control here, very helpful with libraries that require a lot of control. You don't have to go into the piano roll, fine tune anything like that. Just nice, sweet, and simple. So with that, happy composing.